Hello, I'm Dr. Louise, and this is Dr. Louise Thinks, a channel dedicated to helping everyday folks connect with the healing power of philosophy. This week, I've been thinking about the role friendship plays in our lives. If you saw last week's video, then you know some of my friends have been navigating the depths of grief, and I have been so lucky to witness some of the meaningful ways these folks have come together to support one another. And this led me to start wondering about how we might think about friendship from a philosophical perspective. Now, friendship is an interesting kind of relationship. It has some similarities with romantic relationships, but it is also importantly different in many ways. One thing that both kinds of relationships involve is love for the other person. But exactly how this love works is disputed among philosophers. Some philosophers, like Nietzsche, have argued that the kind of love that happens in romantic relationships is actually bad because it can encourage each person to disappear into the other. We might think the love involved in friendship doesn't have this sort of challenge. Certainly, a core thing about friendship is that both friends have the power to influence the other person. Aristotle captured this idea in his notion of friends functioning as a kind of mirror of each other. Each person on their own is somewhat limited in their self-understanding. With friendship, we can get to know ourselves better. Now here, we're kind of thinking of friends that are relevantly similar to us. Either that might be similar in terms of our values or maybe in terms of our attitudes about the world. When we see those values or attitudes embodied in another person, we can come to understand more deeply how they function within ourselves. This can give us greater insight into our strengths and into our weaknesses. Now, not everyone loves this mirror idea. For one, it seems to suggest that friendship is only useful insofar as we are friends with folks who are similar to us. But this seems wrong given we can have wonderful friendships with people who are very different than us. Another reason to think the mirror isn't a great way to understand friendship is because it kind of makes your friend a very passive entity. It seems more accurate to think that friends do more than just passively show us who we are. Instead, they actively help shape us into who we are becoming. Surely, the dynamic involves more than just a mirror. Cocking and Kennett give an account of friendship that emphasizes this more active role our friends play in our lives. They argue that our friends help both direct us and interpret us in a way that directly shapes us. Let's talk more about what Cocking and Kennett mean when they say direct us and interpret us. To be directed by your friend is to allow her interests, values, etc. to shape your own. Thus, your friend may suggest that you go to the opera together, and you may agree to go, even though you have no antecedent interest in the opera. Through his interest, enthusiasm, and suggestions, didn't you just love the concluding duet of Act 3? You may be moved directly by him to acquire an interest in opera only because he's your friend. This means that as part of your friendship, you are open to developing new interests and exploring new ideas simply in virtue of your friend sharing those interests and ideas with you. To be interpreted by your friend is to allow your understanding of yourself, in particular your strengths and weaknesses, to be shaped by your friend's interpretation of you. Thus, your friend may admire your tenacity, perhaps a trait you did not realize that you had, or be amused by your excessive concern for fairness. And you may come, as a result, to develop a new understanding of yourself and potentially change yourself in direct response to his interpretation of you. Here, you can see how this interpretive aspect of friendship captures some of the things that seemed right about Aristotle's view, Aristotle's mirror idea. We do come to learn about ourselves and perhaps even lean into certain aspects of ourselves through the experiences we have with our friends. Another thing that seems pretty important about friendship is that we do stuff together with our friends. Specifically, it seems like friends do stuff together sometimes purely for the sake of friendship itself. Think about times you have gone to an event or done an activity with your friends, not because you really cared about the event or the activity, but because you just wanted something to do with your friends. Often, these shared activities are not motivated by self-interest, the kind of thinking that says, I'll help you organize your garage today so that you can help me clean out my car tomorrow. These shared activities are purely for the sake of friendship. And that is a special thing that happens only with these kind of friendship relationships. That doesn't happen in other kinds of relationships. Talking is one kind of activity friends often engage in purely for the sake of friendship. This might be particularly important in situations like processing grief among friends, but it might also be important when a friend is trying to make a hard decision about how to do the right thing. Philosophers would call this moral deliberation. You are deliberating about what to do in a situation when you might potentially cause harm to yourself or to someone else. Kultonsky argues that part of what we should be doing with our friends is to help each other engage in good moral deliberation. Here we might talk through how our friend is thinking about the decision that they need to make. We might keep an eye out for any factors our friend may have not yet considered, or notice any problems in their reasoning, or just make sure that our friend has good reasons to support their decision. Kultonsky says that an important part of what we are doing when we are here for our friends, it's not necessarily to challenge their ideas or to make our friends think the same way that we think, but just to go through the reasoning process with them, and ultimately we'll defer to our friends' judgment about what to do. So this isn't a combative exchange. This isn't let me show you why you're wrong in your thinking. Instead, we're walking through that process together and then leaving it to our friend to make the final decision. In this way, friends can still disagree about what the right thing to do is, but we also help each other make sure that we are standing on reasonable ground. Kultonsky thinks this is an important part of respecting our friends' sense of agency. Friendship is a very powerful force in the world. It seems to involve a kind of special love that separates it from romantic relationships. Exactly the role of friendship in our lives is disputed by philosophers, but my instinct is that it's an important way we come to understand ourselves and become the people that we hope to be. I believe that there is value in having friends that are both similar to me and friends that are very different than me. In both cases, I have interesting opportunities to understand why I am the way that I am, and to get more insight into how other folks are thinking about themselves and the world. I'm curious, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. What do you think friends are for? Do you agree with Aristotle's mirror perspective? Do you think Kultonsky has something important to say? What are your thoughts about friendship? Put them in the comments. And if you enjoyed this adventure through practical philosophy, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And until next time, stay curious, live meaningfully, and keep asking those questions. Bye-bye.